guys, welcome back to Our Corner of Maine. This is part 2 of our 2-part series all about our pregnancy, labor, and natural delivery of our son.
We'd like to apologize for the delay in between videos. We've been having some technical difficulties with our computer.
Some big ones.
Yeah, and so now that we've got those ironed out, we're happy to bring this video to you.
Yes, and I realized that several people didn't realize why our videos weren't going live every Thursday like is normal for us. And that's because they don't follow us on Instagram, which is where we were updating in real time, letting you know that our computer was being worked on. And so make sure you follow us at Our Corner of Maine on Instagram. I'll have that linked down below so that you can hear real time from us and you can see a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff that we share from time to time. Also, before you start this video, make sure you check out part 1 of this series where we documented all about our pregnancy and the decisions within our pregnancy and how we came to pursue natural birth and birth outside of the hospital setting.
Yeah, so as Meredith just said, this video was all about the labor and delivery of Weston, and we took an unconventional route. We went natural and outside of the hospital, and it's a story that we love telling. And
our favorite story.
And it's one that we think is pretty interesting.
Yes, but if birth and labor is not of interest to you, we have plenty of other topics here on our channel, so I'm sure you can go find a video that is of interest to you. But that's what this whole video will be about.
Yes, and just a little disclaimer, this video is family friendly, so there will not be any graphic images. There will be some images, but they will be safe for all eyes.
Yes. All right, let's get into our story.
Just a backstory, Meredith went 16 days overdue. That's 42 weeks and 2 days. This was our first child, and we also chose not to find out the gender.
Yes, so we had this first little baby of ours on the way, and it was really important to us to have our child born when they were ready. We're not really advocates for induction unless it's absolutely necessary, and there are moments when it is. But all indicators were pointing toward health for me and my baby, and so we chose to wait it out and choose natural induction methods. But we got to a point where we did need to get my baby out.
Yes,
we wanted to avoid hospital induction.
We were kind of given a choice, or not a choice. They told us that we had till the end of the week, and I think we were told
that was on a Monday. They told us that.
Or else we needed to have Meredith be induced.
Yeah, so I was ready to do anything natural, and my midwife for weeks had been talking to me about the benefits of acupuncture, and I had let it go in one ear and out the other because I'm really not a fan of needles. But knowing that this was a really valid option, or hospital induction, I was ready to do it. So Tuesday we went in and they did several needles in various pressure points. One is on the inner of your shin, there's some in your ears, and there's some on your pinky toes. The one on your shin is to encourage uterine contractions. And so I went through a session of acupuncture, and then we were sent home with herbs of a sort. And this kind of is like the oddest part of our story, but we had to burn herbs on my pinky toe.
We felt kind of like hippies.
Oh yeah. So we sat there, did this on our couch, just kind of laughing at each other the whole time. And then we went to bed, you know, saying, all right, we did what we were told to do.
Yeah.
Well, 2 a.m. I woke up with tightening, and I was incredibly restless, and I couldn't go back to sleep. And labor had begun for me.
Probably less than 6 hours after.
Which is wild, and my body just responded very well to acupuncture. And so, like I said, it was 2 a.m. and I came out here to the living room. I didn't want to wake Ben. He already wakes up at 3 a.m. for work. And so I let him sleep for another hour, and I just came out here and sat on our exercise ball to work the baby low into my pelvis there. And when Ben came out for work, well, first of all, it was odd that I wasn't in bed.
Yeah, so when my alarm went off, I noticed that Meredith wasn't in bed with me, and I assumed she had gotten up to go to the bathroom or something. But when I came out of the bedroom, she was sitting in the living room, the lights were on, and she was bouncing on her ball, and she just looks at me and says, it's happening.
Which, oh goodness, when you have been overdue for so long, you're in this constant state of waiting, which is just a very unique period of time for us.
Because they tell you like 2 weeks before your due date that it could happen anytime. And so we were in a state of expecting it to start any time
for about 4.5 weeks,
for over a month. And
that's just a unique situation in and of itself. And so when he came out, we just exchanged this smile of like, here it is, it's finally time. This race that we've been preparing for and so much anticipating, we're here at the starting of the race. So he actually went to work for a little while because I was in very early labor. At about 5:30, I called him, and I just was ready to not do it alone anymore. I wanted his support. And so he came home, and we started timing them on an app that we had on our phone. I think around 7, we called our midwife and let her know that things were starting, and she took some data from us. And again, she just let us know that we're welcome to come in when we feel it's ready. I think we ended up going in around 10.
I think so, yeah.
The birth center is about 45 minutes from our home. And so I didn't want to be in active, strong labor during the commute.
Especially because there was a storm just starting to blow in.
Yeah, right so this is early March.
Right around the time we started heading up to town.
Yeah, so we got there around 10:30, maybe just shy of 11, and met the rest of our birth team there.
Yes.
So our birth team consisted of 2 midwives, Chris and Julie. This is at Holly No. 7 Birth Center, by the way. We mentioned that in our first video, but it's a birth center in Bangor, Maine. And yeah, so we have 2 midwives for any birth, whether it's a home birth or a birth center birth. One is for baby, one is for mama, but they work as a team, of course. And then we also had my mother present as a support and my chiropractor. And most people's eyebrows sort of raise when I say that, but my chiropractor is Miranda Doherty of Naturally Balanced Chiropractic in Palmyra. If you're local and looking for a chiropractor, I absolutely recommend her. She worked with me throughout my entire pregnancy to ready my body, prepare my body, support my body for the huge change that pregnancy is. And she was just a wealth of knowledge for us. And I had mentioned to her in my pregnancy how I was hoping to get adjusted right before birth. And the conversation arose that she could actually be present for my birth, and she offered her services for that as a form of support to my body and a natural form of pain management. And so I had her join my birth team, and she proved to be one of the most valuable pieces of my birth team in the moment, which we'll get into that in a minute. But pretty much the birth center, everybody assembled at the birth center.
Late morning.
Yeah, and I was in early labor still. But it slowly started progressing. The birth center is set up to have 2 suites, and they're birthing suites that are really nice facility.
It's in an old firehouse, so it looks really nice anyway.
Neat architecture, yeah.
It's got brick walls, and it's just really rustic looking. But in each suite, there's a big bed. I don't know if it's a queen or a king.
It's a queen.
Then there's a bathroom with a shower.
Walk-in shower.
Yes. And then there's a birthing tub. And
there's also, so the big birthing tub that it is an option to birth in and labor in. They also have birthing stools available and birthing balls. And then it's attached to a kitchenette that the family can use throughout labor. Yeah,
there's like a kitchenette in between the 2 rooms that if there were 2 people there, the families could share it, but we were the only ones there at that time.
Yeah, and it is right in downtown Bangor, but when they renovated the building, they were very intentional about sound dampening, and I don't remember hearing street noise at all.
Not at all.
It was a very serene setting that they have created there, and which is very important to us to bring our child into the world in. It's not this institutionalized feel to it. It's a very home-like feel. We would birth our children at home if we were closer to a quality hospital, but we feel like the birth center is right between our home and the quality hospital. Little Weston boy actually just woke up, so I gotta go take care of him and we'll resume in a second. All right, I'm back. Our little boy woke up for a moment, so I had to go put him back down and soothe him.
So once we were at the birthing center, your labor actually was progressing quite slowly.
Yeah, first time birth.
Yeah.
It's pretty common.
And so for that reason, we ended up not really telling a lot of family, for a few hours anyway, just so it didn't worry them throughout the day.
Yeah, which was a good thing because I ended up having a pretty long labor. And we just labored in private for a while, and then about early afternoon, we let people know.
Yep.
But all throughout the day and all throughout my labor, we were just moving throughout that room, using each of the tools that they had available to us, which was really good for my body to be able to do that. I really didn't have a desire to be on my back in the typical labor position that most people think of. That was pretty much the last thing in place I wanted to be. I think that was an experience that was very specific to a birth center and being able to customize our labor that I probably wouldn't have had in a traditional hospital setting. Was they had it set up just so in order to encourage the movement, but also they themselves encouraged it.
Absolutely.
Like Ben was encouraged to be a physical and emotional support to me, so I very much relied on him, and they supported Ben in his support of me, and just they kept you fed, and they
reminded me to eat and drink.
Yeah, reminded you to take breaks, and he was working very hard that day, just like I was, and he was tired by the end of it, just like I was. But yeah, they really encouraged us to press into each other during it, and he was a huge support to me.
As your contractions started amping up later in the afternoon, you were actually having quite a bit of nausea.
Each contraction brought a huge surge of hormones for me, which would cause me to throw up, and
with every contraction,
so every 3 to 4 minutes. And so I was just depleting myself of energy, and of any energy I had every 3 to 4 minutes, which was very concerning to my midwife.
Yes, so their main concern was keeping Meredith hydrated, and so they had a drink that they were mixing. It was just had electrolytes and stuff in it, so it was trying to keep Meredith hydrated, but
I could not keep it down. And we were using essential oils to counteract the nausea, and that was not working either. And I barely remember this, but my midwife asked if I'd like the acupuncturist to come back in to see me. And I didn't really even realize that was an option to me. But she essentially made a home visit to the birth center, and I don't remember even seeing her, but I knew she was there, putting a couple pins with stickers in my ears, on my toes, and then again on my inner shin there to encourage the regularity in my contractions, but the others are anti-nausea
and it ended up helping almost immediately.
Yeah, my body, what we learned through my birth is that my body responds incredibly well to acupuncture, which is ironic because I was so against it back before I ever experienced it. But my body responds well and quickly to it. It was almost instantly that I stopped throwing up.
Yeah.
And so I was able to get fluids back in me and rally essentially.
Also going on through this whole time is the chiropractor Miranda was being a rock star.
Absolutely. She was such a support to me. I was having back labor, which is very low pain in my lower back and very minimal pain or tightening in the front of my abdomen at all. And so she was putting counter pressure on my lower back and positioning her hands and putting pressure on my hips to relieve that pain. And she was such a resource to me. If I was ramping up for a contraction, I'd just yell, "Miranda, Miranda, Miranda," and she would be there in an instant.
And by the end of the night, her arms were just shaking from pushing so long and hard on your back.
Yeah, she was putting such a great amount of pressure on me that she was working for the entirety of my labor.
Yeah.
And she also showed Ben and my mom how to position their hands just the same as her techniques to relieve that for me as well. And between the three of them, I had someone on my back for every contraction.
Yeah.
It was my only source of pain management, and it was effective and 100% natural. And I will never give birth without Miranda's hands on my back. Anybody who's ever considering chiropractic care throughout their pregnancy and their birth and postpartum, she's done a lot for me as well.
And Weston.
And Weston, yeah. I will forever sing the praises of Miranda and her assistance in us pursuing natural labor and bringing our baby forth. Yeah, it was incredible. Hours upon hours of hard labor. It's the hardest thing I have ever done. I will hands down say that, but I have also never had this beautiful combination of being so weary but feeling so strong at the same time. Without having any medication coursing through my body, I feel like I was able to be very aware of my body's cues. There were moments where my midwife would suggest a different position, and I just didn't feel like that's where I should be or how I should be positioned. I knew if I felt effective or not. I'm sort of a very self-aware person with my body and what's going on with my body anyways, but I feel like in labor, I was really able to listen to my body. And it was a very empowering thing to give birth and do it fully present.
It was also very peaceful there too, because we already mentioned how the birth center itself was. It was very calming and relaxing environment, but also it was the middle of the night, and as we said before, it was in the middle of a snowstorm. Weston was born on the night of a 1-foot snowstorm.
Yeah, with big snowflakes falling really slowly, very little wind.
You could look out the window and see the big snowflakes falling into the streetlights.
Which made it very quiet too.
Yeah.
It was just so serene, which that's another thing that we were really pursuing in birthing outside of the hospital setting, is we want to bring our child into a quiet, calm, more dim environment, because they're coming from a warm, dark, quiet place. And I feel like in a lot of hospital settings, without an awareness, we bring them into this bright, cold, loud area that is just so starkly different. But it doesn't have to be such a contrast. So as it became night, the lights were dim, and we had given instruction that when our baby does come forth, that we just want people to be quiet and calm about their entrance to this world. And so we continued on for several hours. I was actively pushing for about between an hour and an hour and a half.
And you had moved around to different positions as you were pushing.
That was one of the moments, like I mentioned before, where my midwife suggested that I go push in the birthing tub. And I did not feel like my pushes were effective in there, nor did I feel effective on my back. No. The two positions I felt very effective pushing was standing with 1 foot on a stool or sitting on a birthing stool. And if you've never seen what a birthing stool looks like, it's essentially a stool that has a U-shaped cutout to bring a child forth through. And that is where I ended up giving birth. While I was in that position pushing, my midwife was working extensively on helping my body to not tear as he came through my birth canal, by applying warm compresses and applying olive oil to my body. And as you'll hear in a moment, I birthed a very big baby and I did not tear. And I have my midwife to thank for that, because she worked extensively on helping my body to be ready for him to come through. And again, I just feel like that's a very custom piece of birthing with such care that I wouldn't have received in the hospital setting. Yeah. And so I have a great appreciation for that aspect of it as well. You were contracting with me. Yeah. In the fullest sense of the word. So before,
a couple positions before you actually gave birth, you were laying on the bed and you were kind of leaning on me, and with every contraction I would help you like crunch up.
He would do a crunch so that we could lean forward together. And this is at the point where we were both getting exhausted. Yeah. And so Ben would crunch with me, and then once the contraction subsided, he'd go back down,
And fall asleep.
And fall asleep. Like, I'm talking, he has 60 seconds. And he'd fall asleep. And then when he heard the commotion, he'd crunch back up. My mom said it was kind of hilarious to watch. But he was weary, just as I was. Yeah. And so you'd come up about it and then go with me again. And then the position I gave birth in is Ben was sitting on the edge of the bed and the birthing stool was sort of between his feet.
Yeah. You were kind of leaning on me.
And I was leaning back into him, and again, you were helping me bear forward to push. And I'm trying to remember who was on my legs. I had, was it Miranda. Julie?
Oh,
Julie was just one of the midwives, was on my right leg. Miranda was on my left leg, my chiropractor. And my mother was just over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Right? And I believe that's how it went. At least I was very preoccupied.
I'm pretty sure.
And then my midwife, Chris, was there applying the compresses and ready to catch our baby. And I remember this moment where I looked up at Julie, the midwife, and she just spoke words to me that just assured me that I can do this. And she just boosted my confidence when I felt like I couldn't do it. She encouraged me. And I can't even remember the specifics of her words, but I just remember closing my eyes again, knowing that that woman knows believes that I'm doing a good job, and she believes my body's going to do this well. And so I'll forever remember that. And I know going into it, I know, and I felt that yes, I am fearfully and wonderfully made to bring children into this world. My body's designed to do this, but in those weary moments, it can get a little bit overwhelming. But my midwife took the moment to remind me and encourage me. And you praised me all throughout, which was a wonderful support as well. And so finally, after about an hour and a half of pushing, our baby came out and right onto my chest.
Yeah, so we moved Meredith back up onto the bed.
Which I don't even remember how I got from the stool to the bed. And we just had our family moment of, several moments of just absolute bliss.
So the baby was laying on Meredith's chest for at least 10 minutes before we did anything else. And I just remember this feeling of like we did it, we finally made it.
We got over that hurdle and
just this huge new chapter is beginning for Meredith and I.
Yeah, and I remember seeing you tear up. And,
yeah, we both did. And
you kissed me, and those moments are just seared in my mind.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so precious.
It was great. And so, eventually, he said, okay, let's check the gender.
Well, I asked him, I said, do you know?
Right.
Because it had probably been about 10 minutes of our baby on my chest, and they had put a blanket over for warmth. And I said, do you know? And he goes, no. And so he goes to check, and then he asks the midwife a question. And later I asked him, what did you ask the midwife? And he was just confirming that what he was seeing was correct.
I just didn't want, I knew what I was looking at, but I didn't want to think I was seeing something else. And
yeah, and the umbilical cord was all around there too, so yeah.
So I saw the gender parts, and I said, it's our boy, it's Weston.
Yeah, it's our boy, it's Weston. And then you kissed me. And oh, that moment. If anybody is considering not finding out the gender of your baby, it is absolutely worth it. It was better than we even anticipated.
Yeah, I would do that every single time.
We will do that every single time. Yeah.
It's a great surprise. It's great anticipation up to the day.
Yeah. And I feel like we fully met our child in the fullest of ways. We met their image and their person and who they are all in one, and it was just this beautiful introduction.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And I had this huge mother's instinct that it was a boy all along, so I just knew, but I was also so relieved that my mind and heart were right. And so then Ben named him aloud.
Yeah, I said, this is Weston Harold Taylor.
Yeah, he told the midwives and everybody around that this is Weston Harold Taylor.
Because that's also something that we hadn't disclosed to anybody.
We hadn't told our name options, yeah.
So everybody, including Meredith's mom, didn't know his name yet.
Yeah, it was a first-time introduction. Oh, so special. And then, so I was starting to bleed heavily, and so we had to pass Weston to Ben, which was a great opportunity for you to have some skin to skin.
Absolutely.
And so my midwife needed to work on applying some pressure to my abdomen to help my placenta come forth. The amounts of time here are all kind of blurry just because it was, adrenaline was running through both of us, and love and tiredness. But they worked to help me deliver my placenta. I was given 2 shots of Pitocin because I was bleeding so heavily. And there was a moment that was just slightly scary for Ben. Yeah. I remember him, I still had Weston on my chest. And I remember him kind of looking at the midwives, and I could tell, just because I know Ben so well, I could just remember there was a little bit of concern in his eyes, and I was clueless as to what was going on, but I said, can someone tell Ben what's going on? He's concerned. And they just said, she's bleeding a lot, but we're going to give her Pitocin. We have this handled. And I don't really have an indication of how much I bled, but I guess I bled quite a bit.
It made a pretty big mess, but they got it under control with the Pitocin.
With 2 shots of Pitocin. I guess that's a little side note to mention, is that there are resources available to me and interventions available to us, even though we were birthing outside the hospital setting. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. Had I or my baby needed oxygen, we would have been given oxygen. And there are also injections that they're able to administer on an as-needed basis. And so we utilized one of those resources, and I had 2 shots of Pitocin to stop my bleeding, and it was effective. And we moved on from there. It wasn't a huge momentous thing for us, but it was something that, of course, we were thankful they were able to give me. Yeah. So during that, Weston had to go to Ben's chest, and they instantly both fell asleep, which I thought was just the most darling thing. And I got one of my favorite photos to date of them in that moment. They were meeting and holding each other and falling asleep together for the first time. And I actually remember my mother came and stood between Ben and the wall, between the bed and the wall, because Ben had just been so exhausted and shown her that he was so exhausted that she was nervous Ben was gonna fall off the bed or that the baby would fall. So I didn't realize that moment, but she told me that recently. She just did that as a little safeguard.
It was a wonderful moment. I can remember him laying there, and then we fell asleep, and I don't know how long he was there for, but
I'm not sure. Time is such an odd thing in labor.
For me as well, yeah.
After birth, I got a huge adrenaline rush and all these endorphins running, and I was ready to go. And I was a motor mouth. I tell you what, I would not stop talking, and I just felt fine. But of course, everybody who had supported me throughout the labor and didn't have those endorphins running through them, they were ready to go to sleep. Because it was 11:34 p.m. I think. The details are hairy. If it's wrong, I'll write it right here. But it was nearly midnight, and that was March 7th, 2018. So just before March 8th.
And a few hours later, I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, your dad showed up.
Yes, 2 hours after he was born, my father and stepmother braved those roads that were quite snow-covered and traveled up to meet him. And we hadn't told them his gender either. And so they came in, and we had a very special moment where we shared with them their new grandchild. while they were still there, my midwife weighed Weston and told us just how big he is.
Hi there. We're gonna weigh you. Put you in. That's a good thing. I'm glad you want a nurse. Here.
What time is it?
It is 2 o'clock.
I just have to check some stuff.
Okay, here we go. How much guesses? What do you guess, Ben?
My 6, 7, 8. Guess 7, 8.
Mine's 8-3.
I'm gonna say 8.
Yeah?
How about 9?
9 exactly.
Pounds. Wow.
Good, big boy.
You're part of the 9-pounder crew. There's 4 of us women in here.
Oh, yeah? Good boy, Weston.
You're very peely, which is, you know, because you're past dates. I know. I'm gonna get you to your mama.
So he was a big baby.
Yeah.
Yes. And part of it, I think, was he was just growing for so long. He was 16 days past due, and he grew some chunk on him.
Yeah. But really only the major side effect is that he had some peely skin that needed hydration.
Yeah. He was a little bit peely from an overproduction of skin for a while. Another thing is he had a very big head.
Yeah.
He had a 15-inch circumference, which my midwife told me was about an inch above average. And an inch on a baby's head, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
So big old noggin on him. And he actually presented this corner of his head, which is why I labored, or I pushed for so long. It was a harder presentation. Yeah, it made it a big entrance to this world. But I'm thankful to my midwives because I didn't tear and he was healthy.
Yeah.
And their care was just exceptional.
Absolutely.
For us. Yeah. Now typically we would have gone home about 4 to 6 hours after giving birth at this birth center. But because of the time of night and because of the roads.
By the time we were done weighing him and all that, it was after 2 in the morning. And so we just all crashed. We all laid right on the bed there, and he slept on a pillow in between us. And we got up around 7, I think it was.
Just, it was daylight then. The roads were a little bit more clear. We got up and got him dressed in his first going home outfit, which is so girly. Poor boy is gonna have to look at those going home photos, and he was such a girly outfit. It's a hand-me-down family going home outfit, so we had to.
But it was neat because the midwife made us breakfast and before she sent us out on our way, and then we went home to do some introductions with family.
Yes, and enjoy our family time, get to learn him and know him. And we just believe that your best healing happens at home. So we wanted to be home as soon as possible and grow with our little boy. Well, there you have it. There is our natural labor and delivery story of our healthy 9-pound baby boy.
Yeah, it's a story that we really enjoy telling. And if it says anything about our experience at the birth center, we plan on doing it again.
We were able to fully customize our birth and make decisions that were best for us and our family. Yeah. And we were empowered by the midwives to do that. Yep. It was an incredible experience.
We felt heard and that our concerns were heard.
And listened to and valued.
Yeah, so if you or anybody you know is considering birth, we would encourage you to at least look into that choice.
Yeah. If you'd like to check out more about Holly No. 7, the birth center that I gave birth at, we're going to have a link to their website down below. And we encourage you to share this video with anybody that you know who's local that might be pursuing natural birth.
And if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you check out part 1 where we talk all about our pregnancy journey and all the choices and struggles that we came up with that.
Yes, absolutely. Be sure to like this video. Subscribe to our channel for more content. We are just all about family, doing things together as a family, and we hope to encourage other families to get out and enjoy the beautiful creation that God has given us to enjoy and to do it together as a family. To finish out this video, I'm going to do a short slideshow of Weston when he was 2 weeks old, right fresh out of the womb, our healthy little baby boy. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.